All right, I'm going to send you this link real quick and tell me if you're able to pull it up. Sweet. All right, we'll go live here in just a minute. I'm just sharing this, everybody. Yeah, yeah. I just posted to Twitter and Facebook. All right. All right, you ready? All right, guys, welcome on in tonight. We're still getting kinks out. We've been trying to stream to Twitch, but we can't figure out how to do that. And our Facebook link, for some reason, isn't working tonight. But we're here, and we're going to be discussing the Week 5 college football games for this weekend. But before that, Steven, by the way, guys, this is Steven. If y'all haven't checked out our channel, this is Steven. I'm TJ. This is the Madhouse Sports channel. We're still working on an intro. I've started working on it, but I haven't finished it yet. We're going to get it up eventually. But we haven't got there yet. And there's another thing I wanted to put out. We're looking at potentially having more weekly content instead of just a weekly live show. So if I make a video during the week or Steven makes a video during the week, we can get that uploaded to the channel so y'all can check that out as well. But yeah, we apologize for once again, the late start. We started working on this about 7:30, and it took us this long to get everything figured out. We were having issues with feedback, and then we're having trouble with the live streams going, and it's just been a nightmare. So we're here. Steven, before we get into these games, man, let's put a little bit of news out there.
All right.
So I don't know if we have any baseball fans out there, but the Atlanta Braves pitcher, Spencer Strider, is receiving quite a bit of backlash this week because of a comment that he made. In a recent interview that he put on, Spencer Strider was asked about having any hot sports takes, and he said yes, they need to get rid of the fans. His comment said, "Get rid of the fans. It's too loud. It's too loud. Everybody be quiet. We don't need the cheering. We know you're watching. I don't need the fans." He then goes on to say, "You stay outside the stadium. I mean, back it up. Let's do like a no lower bowl thing. Upper decks, great. Outfield, phenomenal. We don't need you around the dugouts. Just try and be quiet." Now, I love the Braves, right? Huge Braves fan.
Me too.
But
Me too.
hearing that comment, man, how does that make you feel as a fan?
Well, for Spencer Strider, I mean, he's a damn good pitcher, but at the same time, if you're going to say stuff like that, why are you playing the game? I
No, yeah,
mean,
I
you
agree.
know
I
that
agree.
that's going to be part of it. Why are you playing the game if that's what you're going to, if that's the reaction you're going to have to fans cheering and hooting and hollering and having a good time like they're supposed to do during a game? But I mean, the Braves. I will say this: the Braves did have some good news as well this week.
Yes, they did. They clinched the
By
division.
one that and by one Ronald Acuna Jr.
Dude, yeah, I saw that was like the first 30-70 or something like that.
40-70. First
Yeah,
player to hit 40 home runs and 70 steals.
dude, that's phenomenal. Like the Braves are on it this year. They've been on there the
If
past
it,
couple years. But I'm glad to see that, man. Finally, we have a good baseball team of the Braves.
Alex Anthopoulos is doing a phenomenal job as a GM. I mean, I really hated the whole Freddie Freeman being gone, but when he brought Matt Olson in, I'm not hating it so much no more. I'm actually starting to get on the Matt Olson train. I feel like Matt Olson's doing good at first
Yeah, he
base.
is. He is.
I think he was 5 years younger than Freeman, so that gives us a little more life out of a first baseman.
Yeah, and
He's
go ahead, go ahead.
he's doing just as good hitting as Freddie Freeman ever did. The one that I miss the most is old Dansby. I miss my boy.
Yeah, I like Dansby too. I was a big Freddie Freeman fan too, man. But Acuna is just killing it. I'm glad to see that, man. The Braves hit 100 wins. I don't know how long it's been since they've done that. I'm sure it's been quite a few years. I mean, they won the World Series a few years ago, which I was really great. But just during a COVID year, which is,
Yeah.
you know, which is I think why the Spencer said that, because there weren't a lot of fans. You're able to focus more. But still, man, just hearing him say that just kind of, to me, it's kind of taking a shot at the fans. But do you think he was being sarcastic, or do you think he was being legit?
I didn't personally hear the interview, so I can't say one way or the other on that. Um, Depending on the context of the question that was asked or whatever, I think it was a serious statement,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
think he meant any harm by it. If you get what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. Um, Here's the thing: we're both professional wrestling fans, right?
Yeah,
If you're a wrestler and you go to a show and there's no fans there, you're not going to get paid, right?
correct.
It's the same with baseball. If you run your fans off, or any sport for that matter, if you run your fans off, you're not going to get paid. So you need to tread lightly when you make comments like that, buddy, because you may get what you want. I don't see it happening. I mean, the Braves fans are going to be Braves fans regardless, but just saying stuff like that, man, it's dangerous. You're treading on in dirty water there.
Oh yeah, it's very dangerous. But
Very, very dangerous.
I don't see, I don't see it being an issue because I mean they're pretty stacked in the bullpen anyway.
Oh
So
yeah, they are.
if Strider does decide to do whatever, and it's
Yeah.
not going to hurt us too bad.
No, you're
I
right. It
mean
won't. It won't.
we lose a starter, but I'm pretty sure we can make up for it elsewhere.
Yeah, we'll gain another one somewhere else. You're right about that. By the way, guys, take a look down here below. Let me get my finger in the way. There you go. I posted links to all of our social media channels, YouTube, Twitch. It's not Our Twitch isn't up and running. Oh, it's up, but we're not able to post videos to it yet, so we're working on that. And of course, we got Facebook and then Twitter, or X now, whatever it's called. So I still call it Twitter. But those links are posted down there below. So make sure you click on those and like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, because the more y'all watch these videos and get them out there, it helps us out to get that algorithm out. So we really appreciate the feedback from you, and we appreciate the support. Um,
And please feel free to comment. We will love to interact with y'all's
Absolutely.
questions or comments and all that stuff. Before we get into college football, I do want to say one more big news that came out. I don't know how much of an NBA fan you are,
Yeah,
but there was a crazy trade that went on.
I read something about that. It had to do with Drew.
No, Damian Lillard.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was a big trade.
Who did he get traded
It
to?
was he got traded to Milwaukee. He's going to be with Giannis now. That's
Oh
going to be
gosh, that's gonna be
yeah.
killer.
So a lot of people are changing who they're going to pick to win the West now.
Oh yeah, I
After
can
that,
imagine. I can absolutely imagine.
but at the same time, the past couple of years they've tried to have some teams that try to have like a super, you know, create a super team,
Yeah.
but it hasn't really worked because the two superstars that they got, they really didn't gel together. So we'll see how it goes. I think this is a good move for Damian Lillard because he really
Yeah,
wasn't
it
doing
is.
nothing much in Portland. This will give him a chance to actually shine and do what he can. I mean, he was like the only one that could do anything in Portland. So it's not now he has a team,
Oh
so
yeah,
they can
absolutely.
gel together, do more, and all that stuff. So that was a very big shock to the NBA world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one more piece of news, Stephen. You and I kind of talked about this a little bit before we went live, but Mel Tucker at Michigan State was fired yesterday for inappropriate conduct. The thing is, man, he had just signed a 10-year, $95 million contract 2 years ago. That made him one of the highest paid college football coaches in the country. Um, he was fired with cause. He was suspended a week prior to his termination. Um, but if y'all don't know, if you're unaware, he was fired for sexual misconduct. Now, I'm not going to get too much into that. You can kind of put two and two together there. But I will say this, that he denies sexually harassing the victim, but he has admitted to performing other acts. So do with that what you will, other acts. If you want more details, Google it and check it out. I don't want to get too much into detail because, that's not my place to kind of judge what happened there. Did you
Right.
hear,
That's a little on the.
that's a little bit on
That's a
the
little
risque side. So
very risque.
what he did, you can go read about it. I'm not, like I said, we're not going to get into too much detail about it just because
No.
that's not what we're here for. But we are here to put out news, and that's a pretty big piece of news. So y'all go check that out. All right, let's talk about these games for last weekend. If y'all don't know, Steven and I are both Auburn and Alabama fans. I'm the Auburn fan. He's the Alabama fan. So we talk more about those two teams on this channel, but we do talk about other sports as well as other college football teams, as y'all see here shortly. So I want to talk about this Auburn game for a second, Steven, if you have a second.
No, go for it.
So here's the deal. Auburn held A&M to just 6 points in the first half, right? It was 6-3 at halftime. They come out in the third quarter. Connor Wigman goes down with an injury. Then Max Johnson comes in, and then the offense starts rolling. And then, of course, A&M eventually pulls away and wins the game 27-10. Here's the thing. This isn't the first time Auburn has seen Max Johnson. He played against him last year at LSU, right? But the issue is Auburn's defense kept them in that game. But the problem is their defense stayed on the field way, way too long. Offense did not produce any touchdowns in the entire game. In fact, they were held to, I think, like 2 or 3 yards total in the third quarter. The only score
After the next thing you know, it was just like the brakes. They just slammed on the brakes, and it was just skirt.
they did
Came to a halt.
Man, it was ugly. Now Eugene Asante, we talked about him a couple weeks ago after the Cal game, was the MVP. He was the only one to score for Auburn on the scoop and score. It's like late fourth quarter, so by that time it was pretty much
Not only that, he had to avoid
Jim.
Jim.
Which I'm surprised Jimbo didn't get penalized for that.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking, but
It really was. It really was. But I mean, Auburn's defense, I have said this since preseason, is competitive, and they will be able to compete with any team in the SEC this year. I truly do believe that. Their defense is that good. In fact, Jalen Simpson is leading the country right now in interceptions. I mean, he's tied with a few other guys, but he's number one. He's got 3 interceptions out of 4 games so far, so that's a pretty good average to have. The strength of Auburn's team right now is their defense. Even their linebackers, like I thought their linebackers are going to be was going to take a step back this year, but honestly, man, their linebackers looked pretty good Saturday. They were able to get to Connor Wiggum. They did sack him a couple times. But it was crazy, man, because when they brought in Max Johnson, the momentum and the tempo of the game completely changed. I don't know what it is.
Sure.
I mean, they prepared for Max Johnson. I mean, for Connor Wigman, but as a coach, you've got to be able to make those kind of adjustments in game. Like, I can understand the first couple of drives to kind of get a feel for what Max Johnson's going to do, but after that, that's when you step up and you make those changes, right?
Right, and that goes to the point of Max Johnson left LSU.
Yep.
For Texas A&M for starting position. Connor Wigman wins out. Max Johnson comes in, shows his stuff. That goes to tell me that Jimbo Fisher, for some reason, did not have confidence in Max Johnson, and that was the biggest mistake he made.
Yeah,
I agree. Texas A&M would be doing a lot better this year than they have been.
Hey, look, I agree. They probably could have beaten Miami, which, I mean, Miami's not a bad team, but on paper, A&M should have beaten them, right? So, a couple of things that really stood out to me in this game, beside the fact that it was a poor offensive performance, was Peyton Thorne just didn't look comfortable at all. They were getting pressure on him the entire game, and instead of trying to scramble out of the pocket and throw the ball away, he would keep it. And I think they had like 6 or 7 sacks on us, but half of those sacks came from Peyton Thorne trying to scramble instead of just getting rid of the ball. Or, they saw the pressure coming. They could have ran a quick screen or a slant to avoid to get the ball off before the pressure got on him. There are a lot of overthrown passes. There are a couple overthrown passes that, had they been on target, they would have taken it to the house. I mean, the receivers had 3 or 4 steps on those defenders. That's how open they were. But,
so is it safe to say that Auburn's going into quarterback troubles?
Yeah, I would say that, yes. And we're gonna touch on that here shortly, but there are some drop passes that shouldn't have been made. In fact, there are some plays that Peyton Thorne threw it to a receiver who was double covered, and he had other receivers wide open down the field with nobody on them. We heard all this hype about Peyton Thorne, how he went 11-2 at Michigan State and all this kind of stuff, which was great, right? But where's that Peyton Thorne? Why haven't we seen him yet? There's something going on with him. It's a mental thing. Now, what I'm hoping
is it a mental thing, or is it just the style offense that Hugh Freeze is wanting to run?
It could be a little bit of both, honestly.
And my takeaway from this is it could be getting to Peyton Thorne's head that he drives the ball most way down the field, get to the red zone, they switch over to Robbie Ashford.
Yeah, and I understand why they do it.
I do too, but could that be part of the reason why Peyton Thorne is not as consistent? It could be getting to him.
It could be, and the thing is, though, man, like Peyton Thorne, he's not slow. I mean, he's not fast as fast as Robbie Ashford, but the guy can move. We saw that in the Samford game. Now, granted, it is Samford,
right?
But it still was kind of satisfying to see that say, okay, this guy can scramble out of the pocket if he needs to and can pick up yardage. He was completely off. Now, what I'm hoping, that was his first SEC game. The nerves got to him, and now he's settled. Now, Hugh Freeze did come out and say that they have let the quarterbacks down because I guess maybe that he thought that they were going to be in a better position than what they are now. And y'all can check that interview out on YouTube. But, I mean, part of it is, Coach, Hugh Freeze is supposed to be this quarterback whisperer. I mean, look what he did with Malik Willis. Took a backup quarterback from Auburn and turned him into a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Malik Willis was a special talent. But Robbie Ashford's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he made some passes Saturday that were spot on, and the receivers just couldn't catch them.
They're not consistent.
No,
that's the only thing. It's not a consistent thing.
No, they lack consistency, absolutely.
There's been a lot of non-consistent quarterbacks in college football right now. I mean, it's not just Alabama. It's not just Auburn. Jackson Dart, he's hit or miss.
Yes, he is. He is. 2 weeks ago against Tulane, he was great. But last weekend, he was, I don't know. He couldn't hit the brass out of a barn, man.
Right.
But now here's what I want to say, and this goes out to all my Auburn fans out there. Okay, don't give up hope yet. It's our first year under the Hugh Freeze system. It's going to take some time. And here's the thing, Stephen. Auburn fans have been spoiled, right? We've been spoiled. Look at the past few coaches, minus Brian Harsin. We're not going to count him because that's when it started, right? Terry Bowden comes in his first year, he goes undefeated. Tommy Tuberville comes in his first year or second year, and he goes like 8-5, 9-4, and takes it to a pretty good bowl game. Gus Malzahn comes in his first year, we play for a national championship. So we've become a little spoiled. Well, oh, yeah, that's right. Chiswick came in his second year. He won the national championship. That's right. I don't know why I forgot about him. But, yeah, he comes in second year. We win the Natty, right? So we've kind of become a little spoiled little brats, in a sense, when it comes to head coaches at Auburn. Hugh Freeze is on the right track. He's recruiting well. He did a great job with the transfer portal, right? Like half of his players this year came from the portal. So y'all don't need to give up hope there. Another thing is, don't start calling for Hugh Freeze's head because we lost one game. All right? Look, 2013, and I'm not saying that we're anywhere close to being like we were in 2013, but in 2013, around this time, Auburn lost to LSU. And then they won the rest of the season and were 34 seconds away from winning the national championship. Right.
Wasn't LSU's greatest year.
No,
let's be honest here.
And I agree with that, right? Of course, it took some miraculous plays at the end of the season with the miracle of Jordan Hare and then the kick six. But the thing is, that Auburn,
about that one.
I know you do, but see, Auburn found a way to win in those games. And that's what they're going to have to do from here on out, is find a way to win. This is the toughest part of their schedule. They had a Texas A&M last week. They got Georgia this week, LSU in 2 weeks, and then Ole Miss. And then after that, Auburn's got some very winnable games with Arkansas and Mississippi State, Vandy, and New Mexico State, right? So we still have potential of going 8-4, even 9-3, if we somehow find a way to beat Alabama or one of these other teams we play. So, excuse me. So don't give up hope on Auburn just because we lost one game. Look, I was upset because of the way we played too, right? It wasn't a pretty game. It wasn't. But you've got to give Hugh Freeze time to get his players adjusted to his system. Let him get those players in. The recruits we have coming up next year, I'm super excited to see with, what's his name? Riddick, that they stole from Georgia, and then Perry Thompson, one of the best receivers in the country. I'm looking forward to seeing Perry Thompson next year. I really am. There's no way he comes in next year and doesn't start. I mean, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't start him. So don't give up. Don't get mad just because we've had one bad game. Granted, the Cal game was a struggle, but it's going to be like that all year. Unless somehow they miraculously find their identity, it's going to be like that all year. I mean, that's how it's going to be. So, Stephen, y'all seem to bounce back from the past couple of weeks after you lost to Texas and then that whatever you want to call it against USF, man. Talk to me a little bit about that game of what you saw in Alabama last weekend.
Well, last week, we started off a little slow. It was, I was like, I think, my prediction's going to be right, which it was just the wrong team winning.
Right.
The 14 point, I had Ole Miss winning by 14 points. Sorry, Bama fans. It's just the way I saw it. We just didn't have a quarterback. It didn't seem at that point that we had a quarterback, but Jalen Milroe went 17 for 21, 225 yards, averaging 10.7 yards a pass. He threw one touchdown, but he also threw one interception. So if we can get that interception down to 0, then we'll be golden.
Yeah.
Jace McClellan, he kind of showed up and showed out in rushing. 17 carries, 105 yards, averaging 6.2 yards a carry and one touchdown. His longest was.
Good.
His longest was 22 yards.
Right. And it was good to see that because this year Alabama's kind of struggled to run the ball.
They really have.
Y'all had Jahmyr Gibbs last year, and that dude was a freaking beast.
Yeah.
He was great. It was really, this year has been really odd to see Alabama play because you're used to seeing them. Yes, they throw the ball, but you're used to seeing them dominate the run game, and they haven't really done that this year.
Right. And how's this for a stat? In the passing game, Jalen Hill had 2 receptions. Jermaine Burton had 2 receptions. Hell, even Jace McClellan had 2 receptions.
Yeah.
So it's like it was evenly distributed on how they passed the ball. It's not like they picked one person and it was like, you're the guy. They kind of evenly threw it around to different people, so kind of threw Kiffin off a little bit. But Jackson Dart didn't do horrible in that game either.
No,
20 for 30, 20 for 35, 244 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns and threw 1 interception. So we were pick for pick. It is what it is. Jackson Dart used his legs a little more than Milroe did, when Milroe could have easily ran more. But they were ready for us. We were ready for them. It was one hell of a game, in my opinion. We did improve a whole lot from where we had been, since Texas. I'm not even counting the first game because that was just like a scrimmage game.
Pretty much.
But,
Who'd you play? Middle Tennessee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was just a warm-up for the season, so I don't even count that game. You really can't judge from that one. But yeah, overall, I was impressed. I ate my words, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I ate my words in the Auburn game, too.
So, but yeah, all in all, I was impressed with the way we're looking. Do I think we are back to true Saban football? No, I don't. Do I think there's still room for improvement? Yes, but as of what we did, I was impressed with it.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I was glad to see this past weekend was Milroe took time to check down and find a second and third receivers and find the right guy and throw to the open guy. He kind of struggled with that against USF, and he definitely struggled with that against Texas. So I was glad to see that from him.
Yeah.
Not really an Alabama fan, but I like seeing good football games, and that was a really good football game Saturday.
There was one really, really, really good football game Saturday.
Was that the Oregon and Colorado game?
No.
Look,
no.
Before you get into that, man, look, I want to say something else because I meant to say this when I was talking about Auburn. I was one of them who was anti-Bo Nix. But looking back on it, it was not Bo Nix's fault. Now, was he a spoiled brat? A little bit, because he wanted to be the starter. Harsin ran him off. The fans ran him off. But he is dominating at Oregon. He is dominating. He's putting up the numbers at Oregon that he should have put up at Auburn, but they didn't use him right.
Right.
He looks like a completely different quarterback, and I'm glad for it. I'm pulling for Bo Nix this year. And if his name is not tossed in the Heisman race, I'm going to be very surprised.
I wouldn't quite say be surprised if it's not, because there are some really good quarterbacks.
There are. Michael Penix.
But yeah. But there's some good quarterbacks going around right now.
Yeah.
Now, Bo Nix is good, but he really doesn't have much competition in the Pac-12.
And that's true. That is true. But it's satisfying to see, and it's, y'all can, Auburn fans, you can blame Bo Nix for it all you want to, but really it boils down to us as fans and Brian Harsin. Like, Harsin just did not know how to run that offense. He didn't know how to run that team or coach in the SEC, but we're not going to get into Brian Harsin tangent because I'll talk about it for 45 minutes. So, I know you said you wanted to say something before we get into these picks.
Yeah, that really good game that was played Saturday, and I really hate to give credit to this team because I absolutely hate this team. But that Notre Dame or Ohio State game was a phenomenal one to watch.
Man,
that was some true football.
Yeah.
Now I will say this: Notre Dame would have won that game had they had 11 men on the field those last 2 plays.
See, I didn't catch all the game, and I didn't see the ending because we were at Menley and Georgia's football game. First one I had gone to this year, so I kind of I had to go. I felt obligated because I
Yeah.
went, not let me rephrase that. I didn't feel obligated. I owed that to them because previously, we all had COVID, and it's just been hard to go. So I did catch a little bit of it while we were eating, but I didn't watch enough of the game to give an opinion on it. Unfortunately, I did watch the Auburn game and the Alabama game. Those are the two games I watched all the way through, and then of course I was switching back and forth in the Alabama game to the Oregon Colorado game just to see if what we talked about last week came true, and it pretty much did. Now Colorado did not show up at all, at all. But I really wish I could have watched that Ohio State and Notre Dame game. Now sometimes the ESPN will play replays, but I think that game was on NBC, so they might not show it. I don't know.
Yeah. Basically, it was back and forth. It was a very defensive game.
Right.
Sorry about that. My buddy was just calling me, trying to see if I saw the end of the Thompson game. My alma mater was playing on ESPN too, so
That's awesome.
he was just seeing if I saw the end of it. But yeah, it was back and forth. It was a really good game. Both offenses looked good. Both defenses looked good. One or the other wasn't better. It really did. It came down to the last play, and Ohio State just happened to get that last touchdown. So, but yeah, let's move on to what you were wanting to move on to. Sorry for stopping us on that. That just popped in my head as we were about to go into our next subject.
No, man, you're good. You're good. Like I said, I wish I could have watched more of that game because I knew it was going to be a good game. And I tell you another good game from the parts that I watched was LSU and Arkansas. Like that seemed like it was a back and forth game. Again,
I didn't really get to watch much of it,
I didn't either.
just because we had people over and there was a lot going on. We were cooking and doing stuff in between games and stuff, so it was just one of those things. I didn't get to catch everything I wanted to, but we decided to stick with the. I started to watch the Georgia UAB game because UAB is the local team.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just kind of wanted to give them a little credit and watch them for a minute, but it got out of hand quickly.
Yeah,
I mean, they scored 14, I think was
yeah, it was like 42-14, I think.
Yeah. So I was happy that they were able to get 14 on Georgia. I really was.
Look, if UAB can get 14 on Georgia, Auburn should really get 17. No, in all seriousness, man. So, usually during this segment we do what we call the pick six, but there's so many good games this weekend, and probably from here on out we're not going to do a pick six. We're just going to pick games that we see being potential upsets or good games, right? The first game, man, that I'm looking forward to is Florida and Kentucky.
That's going to be a pretty good one.
I think so too. Florida's going to Kentucky, and the thing is, man, it's a 1-point spread. Kentucky's favored by 1 point, which that line is pretty accurate. I will say that.
It's accurate, but I think it would be the other way around.
You think Florida should have it?
I think they should have the 1 point just because of that one game.
That Tennessee game.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I think because if they can come in with the same momentum as they did with that game, then for sure Florida's got that one.
And it's hard to argue right now that Florida's the second best team in the East.
It's hard to argue. And this is not Mark Stoops' best team.
No, it's not. It's not. Now they got Devin Leary, who I was really hoping would come to Auburn, but he's been kind of hit or miss this year too. That's the thing I've noticed with even with Stetson Bennett, not Stetson Bennett. What's his name? Why did I say Stetson Bennett? The quarterback from Georgia.
Now?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't ask me, I could have told you.
I got it down here. I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on that, man, completely. It is Carson Beck.
Carson Beck.
Yeah, Carson Beck. Even he's been kind of hit or miss this year. There hasn't been a dominating, in my opinion at least, a dominating quarterback in the SEC this year.
And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. There has not been a single consistent quarterback.
No, there haven't. There hasn't at all.
Every single team has had one bad game.
Yeah, I agree. So Kentucky is actually fifth in the SEC in scoring offense, averaging 38 points per game. But Florida is second in the SEC in scoring defense, only allowing 13.5 points per game, right? Ray Davis, the running back from Kentucky, actually leads the SEC in rushing touchdowns with 5 this season. So really, man, this game could go either way. I want to say it was 2 years ago was the first time Kentucky had beaten Florida in Kentucky in like 40-something years, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like you, man. I was leaning Kentucky at first, but the more and more I look at this game, man, I'm kind of leaning towards Florida to win this one. Do I want to see it? No, I don't mind Kentucky. I've never been anti-Kentucky. But I just...
Yeah, Kentucky's just one of those teams that's just kind of there.
Like, you pull for them because you want to see good things with them, but you don't, like, necessarily hate them.
Right. There's just, like they're that median, damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Right, exactly.
Like, you don't expect nothing out of them, but if they do something good, it's not like, oh my gosh, they did something.
Yep. So what's your takeaway about this game, man?
Well, as you were pulling up, or as you were talking about statistics and everything, opponent red zone conversions, Kentucky's 4th, Florida's 5th. So when it comes to the red zone, they're going to be tit for tat.
Is that red zone scoring or red zone defense?
Opponent red zone conversions. So that's defense. So gotcha. Red zone defense, they're kind of tit for tat. My biggest takeaway from this game is going to be the fact of which quarterback is going to play better. Which offense is going to do more? Is it going to be a pass heavy game, a run heavy game? Do you think that Florida can pull out what they did against Tennessee? Or will they just flop like they did in game 1? It's a question of which team are we going to see Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I kind of think Devin Leary is a little bit more mobile quarterback in this situation. But don't count Florida out, man. They played a heck of a game against Tennessee, like you said, and as much as I'd like to see Kentucky win it, man, I really think Florida's got this one. Now, it's going to be a close game. I don't see it being a blowout on either side. I could see the 1 point, honestly. I could see up to 7, but I don't see it going higher than that, personally. Sorry, I had to mute my phone. All right, next game. I'm interested in this game, but not as interested just because it's not SEC. But I'm interested on this spread and who's favored to win in this game, and that's Utah at Oregon State. Oregon State's actually favored by 4.5 points. This has me a little stunned, not because I think Oregon State's a bad team, but I just figured that Utah would have had the edge here. Although Cam Rising is still questionable in this game, right?
Right.
He has been splitting the reps with Nate Johnson this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just in case Cam Rising can't go. I haven't seen him play all year. I've been looking forward to watching him play, so I kind of hope he gets in this game.
Yeah.
Now, Oregon State has the best running back in the Pac-12 with Damian Martinez. He's only have 1 touchdown, but he's got 432 rushing yards so far, so he's averaging over 100 yards a game, which that's not a bad stat to have. DJU, I cannot pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to call him DJU. He threw 2 interceptions against San Diego State. So that's concerning to me. Like, again, we were talking about quarterback consistency. That's one reason why he's not at Clemson anymore, because he wasn't as consistent as Dabo wanted him to be. And
right.
Plus, they had what's his face? Oh, long-haired boy. Plays for Jacksonville now. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember his name.
Yes, I can picture his face.
Yeah, I can too. If y'all are watching this, comment below. I don't remember his name. A couple years ago. Anyway, they had him, so that's another reason why he transferred. Anyway, they're kind of middle of the road as far as scoring defense goes. They're allowing 17.8, almost 18 points per game. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad stat to have. But when you're in the Pac-12, they're a high-scoring offense.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for, is high-scoring offense. Utah is not much of a running threat. They're going to throw the ball more. They average 22.3 points a game, which
Yeah.
which with them being a pass heavy team, that kind of surprised me, man, because that's almost dead last in the Pac-12. But they are first in the Pac-12 in scoring defense. They've allowed under 10 points a game. Jonah Ellis leads the Pac-12 in sacks with 5.5. So this game could be a low scoring game just because of Utah's defense.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on this? Like I said, I haven't really followed either one of these teams, but it is an interesting game to watch.
Well, I mean, it is the Pac-12, so anything can happen in the Pac-12 as of right now, just because of all the movement that's going around. Oregon State gets home field advantage. That's probably why they have the 4.5 because
Yeah,
it is
that
in
makes sense.
Corvallis. And it's also a Friday night game and not a Saturday game.
Yeah.
So, but Utah, I mean, they're still undefeated. Oregon's got that one loss, or Oregon State, I'm sorry. Oregon State's got that one loss. So it's going to come down to, can this be chalked up as somewhat of a rivalry game, or is this one of those that is going to be a game for I'm better than you, or it's really going to depend on what Utah team comes out, because if they come out saying, "Oh, we got this, we're the number 10 team," it's just Oregon State. We have nothing to worry about because Oregon State does get slept on a whole lot.
They
You know,
do.
I've seen some good things come from Oregon State when they're being talked badly about. But that all comes back to rat poisoning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're ranked 19th. So I mean, the two top 25 teams going at it. Um, I'm actually gonna go with Oregon State in this game.
Really?
I am. I'm gonna go Oregon State. Like you said, home field advantage is gonna play a factor, um, and the fact that I don't think Utah's run defense is very good. Their overall defense, scoring defense is great, right? We just said they're 9.5 points per game is what they're averaging scoring
Yeah.
on them. But I just, especially with them not being much of a running threat, if Oregon State can shut down that passing game and make them one dimensional, they're going to have to run. So I don't know, man. I got a feeling Oregon State's going to pull this one out.
It's going to depend on if Cam Rising is starting or Nate Johnson. If Nate Johnson starts, Oregon State wins this game. If Cam Rising starts, Utah wins this game.
We haven't
Um,
seen Cam Rising this year, so he may not be
yeah,
100%.
but I mean, you know what he can do,
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it, but
and
yeah.
and and you really don't have any film on him for this year, so they really can't prepare for him. So
That's true.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at in this. So I'm going to go with Utah, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State does pull this upset.
Yeah.
I say upset. I say upset just because Utah's number 10, Oregon State's number 19.
Right. Right. All right, man. This next game, Battle of the Unbeatens. Kansas travels to Texas to take on the Longhorns. I don't even know where to begin. It's a 16.5 point spread in favor of Texas. Quinn Ewers has thrown 0 interceptions this year. Now, I'm not saying he's going to keep that stat. I'm sure somebody's going to get it. Somebody's going to pick him off, whether it be a bad throw or just a defender being in the right place at the right time. He's got a 64.3% completion rating and 1,033 passing yards. He's thrown 9 touchdowns though. That's a pretty good stat.
Yeah, that is
One of the
pretty
higher
solid.
stats in college football, actually. They got a decent running back with Jonathan Brooks. He's got 379 rushing yards for the season and 3 touchdowns. But after watching them play the way they did against Alabama, I really don't see Kansas standing a chance in this game. I mean, they've got decent players. I mean, Jalen Daniels has a 74.7% completion rating, which is better than Quinn Ewers, but you got to look to see who's Kansas has played.
Right.
Right? I mean, he played against Alabama's defense and still lit him up, but he has some incomplete passes in that game.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. 16.5 points sounds about right to me. I do want to go with Texas in this game, but I do want to say to look out for David Neal. He's for Kansas. He's 4th in the conference in rushing yards per game, and he leads the conference in rushing touchdowns. So that's going to be interesting to see. How do you feel about this game, man? Have you watched? Have you, other than Texas, have you watched Kansas at all?
I really haven't watched Kansas at all, but I am a big Rob Riggle fan, and I know he is a Jayhawk for life.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the only reason I would go for Kansas, other than the fact that I hate Texas after what they did to us this year. No, in realistics, Texas wins this game pretty handedly. I don't see Kansas being as good as their record shows because they really haven't played anybody. And Texas has already had that tough test. Well, what should have been a tough test against Alabama, but we kind of laid down on that one. But no, I'm with you. I feel Texas really takes care of business in this one and does what they need to do and stay undefeated.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, man. I just don't see this being much of a game, honestly. I think that early on, Kansas will compete because of their running game, but I got a feeling that old Sark will find a way to shut it down pretty quickly, and then Texas will pull away second half. All right, this next game, again, man, the spread's only 4.5 on this, but I think that number might be a little low personally, and that's Notre Dame traveling to Duke. Of course, Notre Dame's coming off that heartbreaking loss to Ohio State. We just talked about that, but they're averaging Clemson, yeah, right. But now, right, and looking at Clemson though, man, this Clemson team is not the Clemson that we've seen in the past. They've got some issues going on. I mean, granted, they lost to Florida State and then they lost to Duke, but I mean, Notre Dame is putting up close to 40 points a game. Might as well say 40. It's 39.6. Sam Hartman is extremely accurate in the pocket too. I think he left North Carolina or Wake Forest. I think it was North Carolina won it. So that's what, yeah. They also have a great running game. Aldrich Estime. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I ain't gonna lie. 118 yards per game and 5 touchdowns. We've seen Notre Dame. I've watched 2 of their games. Well, I watched their game against Navy, the first game, week 0, and then I watched a little bit of the game this past weekend with Ohio State, but not enough to get a good understanding of it. But like you said, Duke upset Clemson week 1, but they really haven't seen good competition since then. They got a decent offense, 37.3 points per game, but I think that Duke's strength is their defense. They're only allowing 8.8 yards per game. I'm sorry, points per game. That says yards per points per game. But again, that boils down to who have they played other than Clemson, right? Miles Jones is second in the conference in interceptions and second in the conference in passing defense. So this could be a factor in the game. But honestly, man, I don't see Duke hanging with Notre Dame. I hate to say it. I really do. But I just don't see – I'd see Notre Dame winning this by 17.
Yes, it's going to be pretty one-sided.
Yeah.
There is still a chance Duke can come back and shine a little bit. I'm not going to count them out 100%, but I'm not going to expect them to win. They're kind of like that Kentucky feel for me. If they win, they win. If they don't, it is what it is. But
it's not a conference game, so it's not going to hurt them.
Right. Well, I mean, technically it's not. But Notre Dame does tend to use ACC for most of their sports. So, I mean, in a way, it is a conference game without being a conference game.
Right, exactly.
It's just an extra game on the schedule for Duke. But, I mean, like I said, Sam Hartman, he's kind of – when he's dialed in, he is dialed in.
Yeah,
he's one of the few quarterbacks this year that I have seen. I mean, he's had his mistakes, he's had his little, problems, but at the same time, he's been one of the most consistent quarterbacks I have seen this year.
Oh, absolutely, he really has. So I think he's a difference maker in this game. All right,
Now,
man.
and with that being said, I will say that he should be in the contention for the Heisman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. I agree. He's one of the top 3 or 4 right now. Um, so with that being said, man, I'm gonna let you take this next one first.
All right, it's going to be LSU and Ole Miss. The game could determine who finishes second in the West, because we obviously know it's not going to be Alabama.
Yeah, they're gonna finish last in the West, guys. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
They'll
kidding,
probably be
just
mid
kidding.
pack. No, just
No,
all jokes. All
they'll win the
jokes.
West.
All jokes. LSU is minus 2.5, so they have the advantage there. In the points, it's gonna be Jaden Daniels versus Jackson Dart. Jaden Daniels has 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 72.6 completion percentage. Leads the SEC in yards per game with 324. Um, and Jackson Dart, for me, he leads the team in rushing yards. He's a dual threat quarterback, can be successful against LSU's defense if he is on, because he is one of those hit or miss quarterbacks. One day you can get a good Jackson Dart, the next day you can get, I really don't feel like playing today, Jackson Dart.
Kind of like
Um,
Spencer Rattler.
right. Yeah, he's that hit or miss. But if Brian Kelly can dial his troops in and do their thing, then they will most definitely come out on top. But Malik Neighbors, he's 4 receiving touchdowns, 523 yards, and a deadly combo when clicking. So like when he's on, and he gets the space that he needs. Um, and we'll go over to Ole Miss's offense with I can't ever pronounce his name.
Quin
Judkins.
Quinshawn Judkins. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got 4 touchdowns. He struggled to convert on third down against Alabama, but I mean, in that game, Bama's defense, they were just dialed in. They're like, look, we're tired of getting beat. We're going to play football now, and that's what happened there. I don't, really discourage Judkins for what he did in that game. That was more of Alabama was tired of being talked about the way they were, so they showed up and showed out.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, both these teams, their defense is just average. It'll most likely, I think it'll be a high scoring game. I don't know what your thoughts on it is, but I think it's going to
Yeah,
be
I
a
agree with
very,
that.
I think it's going to be a very offensive battle in this one. It's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. Which one comes out on top? It's
Especially
going
if
to
Jackson
be,
Dart's on this weekend.
yeah. If he can bring his legs and run the ball, then LSU might be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because I don't think Jaden Daniels is as good of a running quarterback as he is a passing quarterback. So I
Right.
think he's going to rely more on the passing game.
Right, and Ole Miss likes to run that hurry up offense, and they don't punt very much on fourth down. That's just Lane Kiffin.
No, that's
Drives,
just Lane Kiffin with his analytics.
yeah, it drives me nuts. So look, man, I was looking at Ole Miss's schedule. You realize that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Their next 6 games, they could go 1-5.
That they could.
So they've got LSU this week, then they have Arkansas, and then Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and then Georgia.
So what you're telling me is Auburn's going to be their one win.
Vanderbilt.
But
Well, I mean, they have potential to go. I don't see them beating Georgia. They got potential to go 5-1 or 1-5 or in the middle
Right.
somewhere, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that is a pretty tough middle of the season schedule.
let's look at it. LSU, that's a toss-up game to me.
Yeah.
Arkansas is a home game. I see that edge going to Ole Miss in that game. Auburn on the road right now. That edge is probably going to go to Ole Miss. Vanderbilt is obviously in Ole Miss. Texas A&M.
Well, is it though?
I mean, it's a home game, but I still think that it's. I mean, Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt, and at the start of the season, I thought they were going to do decent and make it to a bowl game, but they're going to struggle to hit 5 wins this year. I think.
Yeah, I mean that started pretty solid, but I'm right
Yeah.
there with you on the whole Vanderbilt thing. I don't think they have the consistency they need,
No,
and
they
it
don't.
really does, and it really doesn't help their stadium. It's like a construction site right now.
Right. And then
So
right, and then Texas A&M kind of surprised me last weekend. I thought they were going to be a little bit worse than what they were. Maybe they are.
eh,
Maybe Auburn's just worse than they are. So that's gonna be a 50-50 game. But I could see A&M winning that game. And then Georgia, we know. I mean that's on the road in Athens. I don't see Ole Miss doing much against Georgia.
yeah,
I mean I think what I'm hoping is going to happen this weekend is, if nothing else, Auburn exposes Georgia just a little bit more.
yeah,
But we're going to
because
talk.
there are a lot of holes in their offense.
Oh, they absolutely are. We're going to talk more about that game here in a minute, man. But I want you to hit on this next game, and I'll chime in some too. And that's Alabama on the road at Mississippi State. It's a 14.5 point spread, of course, in favor of Alabama, man. Do you think that spread? You think that's a little bit too low? Do you think Mississippi State's going to show up?
I wouldn't necessarily say Mississippi State's going to show up. The noise is going to become a big factor in
Yeah,
this
them
one
damn
because of those
cowbells.
damn cowbells. But
We gotta have more cowbell.
I can't really get mad at the whole cowbell thing because our local professional hockey team that we have here, we kind of, they're the Bulls, so we kind of do the cowbell thing. But
But that makes sense, though. The bull. I mean, they're bulldogs. Why in the world do they freaking ring cowbells?
I don't know. It's Mississippi State.
Yeah, this is true.
But no, I don't foresee Mississippi State, doing anything special because they really don't have a quarterback that could. I mean, don't get me wrong, their quarterback's pretty good, but I just don't think they have
as last year.
Right, but I don't think he can hold up against this Alabama defense.
I don't either. And Will Rogers' defense, though, he's not as good this year as he was last year, because they're not running that air raid. If they were running the air raid, he'd be lighting it up 400 or 500 yards a game.
Right, and then that might cause some issues for Alabama because our secondary is not so great.
No, they're not. And Alabama's, we talked about it. Alabama's had some struggles this year. They have. There really hasn't been, and I heard somebody else talk about this too. There hasn't really been an SEC team this year to really set themselves apart, other than Georgia, and even Georgia, they've struggled.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all right. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. Jalen Milroe, he's had struggles at times. He's 44 for 66 in completions on the season, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's quite a lot for a Nick Saban quarterback.
Yeah, but 2 of those came at Texas, I believe.
Yes, they did. They
came
came in
Texas,
the second half of the Texas game.
Yeah,
One was thrown to the Texas defender like he was just a wide receiver. But we're not going to talk about that one. Jermaine Burton, he kind of took off. 8 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 47 yards per game. So that's going to be one of our key wide receivers. Yeah. Dallas Turner is going to be key on defense with 4.5 sacks. I feel like if he can turn it on the line, get through that line of scrimmage, then we'll be good to go there defensively. Mississippi State, like I said, I think it's just going to be a one-sided Alabama game. I don't want to get too much into it just because I don't have faith in Mississippi State doing anything tremendous, but stranger things have happened this season, and anything can happen any given Saturday. But as of right now, as it stands, Alabama is going to just show up and show out in this one. Noise will be a factor, but it won't be that much of a factor.
No, I agree with you, man. One thing that's kind of surprised me is, Zach Arnett took over as head coach, and we talked about this after Mike Leach passed. But Mississippi State's defense has kind of struggled this year, which is a shock because he was the defensive coordinator last year. So you would think that their defense would be up to par, but they've actually kind of struggled this year. I mean, I don't know what their stats are. I don't have them here in front of me, but I want to say as far as points per game allowed, they were kind of middle of the road when it came to the SEC. But I don't see them putting up much of a fight with Alabama, man. I really don't. Alabama's dominated Mississippi State in the past, 10 years? I don't know the last time State's beaten Alabama. Maybe when Dan Mullen was there, but I don't even know if Dan Mullen did it.
I think it was when Dan Mullen was there. No,
I know Jackie Sherrill beat him a couple of times back in the '90s.
Sylvester Croom.
Sylvester Croom beat Alabama.
Yeah, because that was back in the Shula days.
Oh well, say no more. Say no more. Say no more.
Yeah. I think that's the last time was when Sylvester Croom was still head coach.
You're probably right, man. I mean, I haven't looked at the stats as far as obviously Alabama leads the series, but they've dominated. It was like Tennessee. They dominated Tennessee for like 15 years until last year. So I don't see this being much of a game. I think Alabama's going to win it by 24 or more. I really do.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And I know why they gave the 14 to Alabama, because it is a road game with those, like you said, with the cowbells. But honestly, I don't think it's going to make a difference in this game. I really don't. I think Mississippi State's going to struggle to get going against that Alabama defense, and it's not going to be that much of a game.
Yeah.
All right, man. The one I'm dreading, but looking forward to at the same time. The number one team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs, come to Auburn this weekend. A 2:30 kickoff on CBS. I hope we don't get Gary Danielson, but I got a feeling we will. Although I have noticed CBS has been running double headers with SEC at 2:30 and then the Big Ten at 7, because they're fixing to be Big Ten exclusive next year. So it may be one of those things to where we don't get Gary Danielson, which I don't mind him, but like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they're just so anti-Alabama and Auburn, it's not even funny.
Right. I just looked it up before we get into that. I just looked it up. The last time Mississippi State victory over Alabama came to a 17-12 upset in 2007. So Nick Saban's first year.
So was that Sylvester Croom or was that Dan Mullen?
That was Sylvester Croom, because Dan Mullen was still at Florida.
That's right. Yep. Under Tebow.
Yep.
No.
He was under 2007. He was under Urban Meyer.
Okay, he was a coordinator. I was going to say Urban Meyer was the head coach of Florida.
Yeah, he was a coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator for Florida.
That's right. Yeah, Florida. He got to state at like 2012, around there.
Yep.
11, 12. Okay, cool. Gotcha. All right, Georgia is a 14-point favorite. Again, I think that number is a little low.
But that's a gracious for Auburn.
Right. But given home field advantage, I think that's why they're doing that. Georgia leads this series 63-56-8. In the last 10 years, Georgia has dominated Auburn with a record of 9-2. Now, keep in mind, they played Georgia twice in 2017. We beat them in the regular season, and then they got their revenge in the SEC championship game. Although I will say that if had Kerryon Johnson not got injured in that game, it probably would have
been a different story.
I agree. It would have been a different story. But he was overused. Gus ran him to death in the ground. He always has with his running backs. But like we talked earlier, Georgia has started slow every game this season. In fact, they trailed South Carolina 14-3 at halftime until my big mouth went on YouTube bragging about it, which I will not do this weekend. I will not do that this weekend.
You kind of ruined my bold prediction on that one, sir.
Yeah, my bad, man. But Carson Beck and Brock Bowers, that combo is crucial to this game. Brock Bowers leads Georgia in receiving. Of course, Carson Beck has been very accurate, but he's still he's not putting up Stetson Bennett numbers.
Right.
But he's still accurate. Georgia needs, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to get off to a fast start. And I say that because Auburn's defense, like we talked about earlier, I believe that Auburn's defense can hang with any team in the SEC this year. I really do.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, their defense is for real. They are legit this year. Now, the noise is going to be...
The secondary is phenomenal.
Oh, heck yeah, they are. That's the strength of our team, honestly, is our secondary. And now the noise in Jordan Hare is going to be it will be a factor in this game, especially if Auburn comes out firing on all cylinders and really gets that crowd going. It's going to be loud as crap, and Georgia's going to have a hard time hearing snaps, which I hope happens. For Auburn, so here's an interesting stat, which really threw me off. Did you know Auburn is second in the SEC in rushing yards per game?
I believe it.
I don't, because they haven't really run the ball that much. But
They really have, though, because
they
did it with Robbie Ashford.
True. And now when they do run the ball, I mean, Jarquez Hunter is averaging 8.5 yards per carry right now. 8.8 right. Technically, but so I mean, I can see it. It just seems like they've been throwing the ball more because that's what Hugh Freeze is wanting. He's wanting more of a balanced offense. But until we get that quarterback that can run that balanced offense, stick with your strength and run the ball. Can Auburn run the ball on Georgia? Yes, I do. Yes, they can. I believe they can. I really do. Now,
yeah, because Georgia's defense is not the same defense they had 2 years ago.
No, it's not. Now, with that being said, do I think that Auburn's going to get 300 yards rushing on Georgia? No, but I think they'll be successful with running the ball if they stick with it, especially if they get, if Jarquez is averaging 8 yards a carry and they're getting first downs every 2 plays, run that hurry up. That's when they're most successful, is when they run the hurry up offense, and we haven't seen it much this year.
And I think that, like you said with the whole rushing yard, no, they will not go over 300 rushing yards against Georgia. I think the good number for them is about 175.
If Auburn hits 300 rushing yards, they're going to beat Georgia.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What I think will happen is they'll probably get 175 yards rushing against Georgia.
That's still not a bad day.
That's not.
And
I don't think it will be a bad day for them rushing.
No, and here's the thing.
If they run the ball.
Right. And Auburn's got an incredible running back room, which I would put them up against anybody in the country. Jarquez Hunter, Damari Austin, but I think he's hurt, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. But then they got Brian Petit, and they got a freshman, Jeremiah Cobb, which I really hope he plays this game because he committed to Georgia. And then we stole him from Georgia last year. And then he almost flipped back to Georgia, and we were able to keep him. So I really hope Jeremiah gets some plays in this game, and I hope he does really well against Georgia. Now, quarterback play has got to be flawless. That is a huge key to this game.
Most definitely.
Now, I read earlier that Hugh Freeze in practice this week, he has played all 3 quarterbacks, but he's not calling it a quarterback battle yet. But what I think he's doing is he's preparing Robbie Ashford and Holden Geriner to come in if Peyton Thorne starts struggling. And I'm going to say this, Peyton Thorne, if I were head coach, he's got a very, very short leash this week. Meaning,
for sure.
Meaning he comes out and makes 2 bad passes, you pull him out of the game and put Robbie Ashford in or Holden Geriner and give him a chance. You're not going to get experience unless you get a chance. Now, do you want to get that experience against Georgia? No, not necessarily. You'd rather get it against a Samford or a New Mexico State or somebody. But you've got to do what it takes to win the game. Like we said earlier, defense is going to keep Auburn in this game. And I mentioned it earlier, too, that Jalen Simpson, he's tied first nationally in interceptions with 3. So he's almost averaging 1 interception per game. He didn't get one last weekend. I think he was kind of dealing with some injuries. But I believe they've got – I forgot his name. He's coming back this week, so that's going to help. I didn't get his name, to be honest with you. And we're talking about Auburn secondary. They're 3rd in the conference in passing defense, allowing 165 passing yards per game, and they've only allowed 4 passing touchdowns.
Which is not a bad stat.
No, I mean that's an average of 1 a game. Now, can Auburn win this game? Yes, they can. Will Auburn win this game? I have my doubts because of just the inconsistency we've seen on the offense so far this year. A few things are going to have to happen. One, Auburn's offense, they're going to have to play long, sustainable drives to keep that defense off the field to give them time to rest. Now, do they need to score on every single one of those drives? It would be nice, but realistically, they're not going to. But if they can control the clock for 5 or 6 minutes per drive, one, that's going to keep Georgia's offense off the field. 2, it's going to let Auburn's defense get time to rest.
Right.
They got to get started early in this game, and I mean like opening drive. If nothing else, get a field goal. Stop Georgia's offense, and quarterback play has got to be perfect. Now, is there such thing as a perfect game? No, but in terms of this game, it's got to be near perfect in order for Auburn to have a chance of winning this game.
Right.
That's my take. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
My big thing is going to be if the quarterbacks can be consistent, it'll be a lot closer game than everybody thinks. Because the simple fact that Auburn's secondary is going to hold Georgia a lot better than most people think they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it'll be as high scoring as everybody's expecting it to be for Georgia. I think it'll be a fairly average scored game. I really don't want to give kind of like a. I'll say if Georgia wins, it'll be a 21-point game instead of a a blowout that everybody's expecting it to be. I know that's only 14 on paper, but that's just because Auburn has the home field, so they're trying to give them an edge, and that could just be for money lines.
Yep. Now,
closer to game time, it'll probably go up.
It will. Now, look, here, we talked about this a minute ago. The 2 losses that Georgia took at Auburn the past 10 years, one was in 2013, the other one was in 2017. And what happened those 2 years? Auburn won the
one
West,
play.
Right? Yeah, one play, right. Well, 2017 wasn't. Auburn dominated Georgia that year.
Yeah, well, I'm talking more of the 2013 game.
Yes. But in 2013 and 2017, the 2 years Auburn has beaten Georgia in not this century, but in the last 10 years, they've made it to the SEC West. They've won the West and made it to the championship. Now, am I saying that if Auburn upsets Georgia this weekend, they're going to win the West? No, I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is if Auburn beats Georgia this weekend, then people are going to start taking Auburn just a little bit more seriously. Because they've got the talent. They absolutely have the talent.
And I'm not counting Auburn out to lose.
No, I hear you. I mean, I don't think they're going to win personally, but
they can win. But like you said, the stars just have to align, and it just has to be that game.
Right.
Georgia pretty much has to walk in there and be like, maybe we'll play one half of football, maybe we won't. I don't know.
Right. And even if they play 4 quarters, what I'm really hoping, like I said earlier, was that game against Texas A&M with Peyton Thorne, that's going to be the last time he struggles this year. I'm hoping they get it together. They find a plan that works for him. And, I mean, you can blame coaching up to a certain degree, right? Like, it's your job during practice to teach your guys what to do in the situation of, when you're being pressured, right?
Right.
But you can't make him make the right decision on the field. You just can't. That's instinct.
Right.
And right now, Peyton Thorne lacks the instinct to know what to do with the ball. I'm really hoping that Saturday he comes out focused, he comes out ready to play and to prove everybody else wrong that he is a good quarterback and that he can compete in the SEC. Because if he does that and Auburn's able to run the ball, and if Auburn keeps this game close in the 4th quarter, they have a legitimate shot at winning this ball game. But those things have to happen like clockwork, and it's got to happen, or we're going to see a very similar result to what we did last weekend with Texas A&M. Probably worse, honestly.
Yeah, it'd probably be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It just depends on how their offense shows up.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, guys, that's it. Those are our picks for the week. We went over the Auburn and Alabama games from last weekend, and then we talked about the upcoming games this weekend, starting with Utah tomorrow night.
Do you want to do a bold prediction?
Yeah, we could do a bold prediction here in a minute. I'm not going to be able to watch the Utah game because I'll probably be traveling home from Arkansas. That's why I am right now. That's why you see the TV and stuff. I'm here for school with my job, but I'm leaving tomorrow. It was about a 6.5-hour drive. But I will say this. It's kind of cool. So coming here, I went through Birmingham, which is where UAB is. I passed the exit for Oxford, which is where Ole Miss is. I went through Memphis, which is where, obviously, the University of Memphis is. I went through Jonesboro, which is where Arkansas State is. And then I'm like an hour and a half away from Fayetteville. So I've been through quite a few college towns on my way here. Little Rock's got some colleges, but they're nothing that competes in football. So, all right, yeah, let's do a bold prediction, man, before we get out of here.
Well, my bold prediction is going to go back to what I've been saying since episode 1.
Okay.
Beamer ball, baby.
Who they play tomorrow?
I'm all about. They play Tennessee.
Oh, why didn't we pick that game? I don't know why I didn't pick that game. So
I don't know. But,
you think Beamer Ball? Do you think they're gonna beat Tennessee tomorrow or Saturday?
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm sticking with my home team here. My bold prediction is Auburn keeps its game closer than 14 points.
Pretty bold.
It is very bold.
That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Right? I love that movie. Yeah, no, I mean, it just because of their defense. Just because of the defense. They're going to keep it within under 14. I didn't say they're going to win, but they're going to keep it under 14.
You get behind that. I could even see Auburn winning. I could.
I could too when I go to sleep in my dreams.
I know I know I'm wearing a crimson and white hat right now, but I can honestly see Auburn winning this game if they show up to play football.
Right. So here's the thing too, man. So used to, I pulled against Alabama every single game. I hated them, right? But the older I get, my wife's an Alabama fan. I don't really hate Alabama anymore. I don't always necessarily want them to win. It depends on who they play, honestly. But I don't pull against them every game because of Georgia. Georgia has made a lot of people hate them. A lot of people hate them. So, all right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap this up tonight. I gotta pack stuff up, put it in my truck so I can leave tomorrow. If you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. The links are down below up under our videos here. We got our YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter accounts posted. So make sure you go to all those accounts, like us on there, and subscribe to us. And hopefully our predictions come right this weekend, other than Auburn losing to Georgia. But if y'all, like I said, if y'all like what y'all see, comment down below. And Steven, what you got to say to him, bud?
You know, and you know, we are still working on Twitch. We'll get it figured out. I think we're gonna do some behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, some test runs.
This weekend and maybe early next week to make sure it's ready to go next week for our show. I don't know. Are we still working on a kick, or are we gonna hold off on that for a while?
Let's hold off on it just because we're having issues with Twitch. But I will say this, and I forgot to mention it in the start of the show. We're looking into factoring in a phone number so y'all can actually call in live, and we can take your questions or comments over the phone. So hopefully that'll be up and running next week. We're going to do some test runs with that as well, just to make sure it's actually going to work. And then, like I said, we got a video intro coming. I've started working on it, but I'm using a new software now. I used to use Premiere Pro, but now I'm using DaVinci. So we'll see how that works. And I'm going to get it going. I've got a couple of songs picked out. I got to send to Steven, let him listen to them. But with that being said, guys, y'all stay safe, and we'll see y'all next week.
A good one. Roll Tide.
War Eagle.